What's going on, YouTube? It's Tom here. We're back with another video today. I have a very interesting video coming up for you today, but before we get into that, first and foremost, thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. We finally hit it. That was my goal last year, was to hit 1,000 subs. Um, we went a little bit over it. It took a little bit longer than what I thought it would, but we just hit it, and I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm working on something for you guys to celebrate that, so be on the lookout for it. Probably going to be a little while because it's just going to take a whole lot of work to do, but I'm pretty excited for that. So today's video is 10V as well as K390. So back, well, it's probably been a month or so ago now, River's Edge Cutlery announced the 10V PM2 exclusive, the Scorpion here, and there was a lot of hype surrounding it. I know the 10V PM2 is something that was in the works for a long time. You guys can watch my other video on it if you want to hear kind of more of the backstory on it and some initial testing and thoughts on 10V. But 10V was pretty much talked up to have maximum edge retention with the toughness of K390. Sounds like a pretty darn good steel on paper. So it sounds really good. It makes you wonder if it's capable of being done by a production company like Spyderco at a production capacity, even though it was a limited run. Now, they've done 10V in the past, like they did on the K2, but that was a long time ago, so it was kind of interesting to see what they were going to do with 10V. So I've also seen a lot of people calling 10V and K390 analogs of each other, which they're not. They're very similar, but they're not the same. 10V, K294, and A11 are all analogs of each other. All pretty much the exact same composition. K390, on the other hand, is a little bit different. It has, it's very similar, but it does have some key differences. So both have 2.5% carbon. 10V has 5.25% chromium, while K390 has 4% chromium. That lower chromium is going to give you a little bit higher toughness out of this steel. 10V has 1.3% molybdenum, while K390 has 4% molybdenum. K390 has 1% tungsten. 10V has no tungsten in it whatsoever. 10V has 9.75% vanadium, and K390 has 9% vanadium. K390 also has 2% cobalt. There's a couple more that are less than a 0.75%. I didn't really feel like we had to mention. So in theory, 10V should give you slightly higher edge retention, but it's not quite as tough as K390. K390, for what it is, for being an extremely high carbide steel like this, is actually an extremely tough steel. It's kind of a weird balance of the two, which is pretty darn cool, and it's kind of rare. So I put both of these through some use on the factory edge. I cut some cardboard with the 10V PM2 and then chewed it into a 2x4 as well, as you guys saw in the previous video. Didn't really do too much damage to the edge whatsoever on that. It was still cutting paper really easily. The K390 I did put through a little bit more extensive use. I cut some rubber roofing with it, and as you guys know, rubber really eats up knife blades pretty quick. I'd say I probably cut 75 feet or so of that. And I also cut some fiberboard. It's like this foam board that has fiberglass embedded in it, and that just destroys an edge. So by the time I was done with this knife that day, it was just toast. I posted it on my Instagram story, I think. Some pictures of the edge all banged up after the day. I'll post them right now here in the video. But that edge took a beating. So after beating on the factory edges of both, I decided to sharpen them both. They sharpen very, very similar. 10V feels a tiny bit harder. Most of the K390 PM2s were testing right around 63, 63.5 or so. 10V has had a little bit more range to it. Initial test showed it right around the mid 64 range, but we just had one that tested like mid 62s. So we're not totally sure how big the range is on these yet, but the range seems to be a little bit bigger than what was done here on the K390 PM2s. I'm not sure if 10V is a harder steel to heat treat, if it's more temperature sensitive than what K390 is. I'm not totally sure on that, but I mean that would make sense for why you're seeing the variances. For what they are, they take an excellent edge. Super crisp and super aggressive, even at the finer grits. It doesn't sharpen like a super high carbide steel. I was very impressed with it Really enjoying the edge that both of these take. I don't know if you guys will be able to see the edge on either one of these, but they came up great, super crisp, shaves hair super easily. Very impressed. So I sharpened both the exact same way, 200 and 1000 grit diamond, and strapped on 16 and 4 micron on CBN on leather, just like everything else I test with, and went ahead and tested them. So the 10V was first. I actually tested this before the K390 even came in. I ran it twice just to kind of see where it was sitting at. I did that while the K390 was in transit. The first test on the 10V was 433.75 feet. Pretty happy with that. I don't have many knives that break 400 feet of cardboard. 400 feet of cardboard is pretty nice. But off the first sharpened edge, I knew that we were probably going to gain a little bit. So that's why I tested it a second time, and I got 457.88 feet. So I would have liked to have seen those results a little bit closer. But so I went ahead and tested it again. So the third result was 523.69 feet, which is awesome. I'm super impressed with that result. I don't think I'm going to gain too much more out of another sharpening off this guy. Pretty impressed with that. So very happy with the results here from 10V, and it definitely seems like I got one of the harder ones. I'll talk about that here in a minute. So K390, when I got it in, I knew that I only bought it for this test, honestly. The stimulus check came in, and I was like, you know what? I want to run K390 next to 10V and see what they do. So I ran the K390, knowing I didn't know where it would perform because, like I said, this seemed like one of the harder 10V PM2s. I don't know, because according to Gerald's test and Steve, I know Steve doesn't have a video out yet, and BJ as well. Neither one of them have videos out yet, but they were getting results pretty similar to what Gerald was getting, where both of these were kind of performing very close to each other. So I didn't know if this was going to perform similar. If I got one of the harder 10V PM2s, I might have this one up quite a bit compared to what the K390 would be. So I wasn't totally sure what I was going to get. So my first test on K390 was 400.13 feet. Very happy with that, knowing that I was probably going to gain a little bit off of subsequent sharpenings. Second test on this was 457.5 feet. So something to note here is that is the exact same as the second test on the 10V PM2. So at that point, I was thinking maybe these will perform very similar to each other, just like everybody else. So I went ahead and ran it one more time. And on the third test, I got 480.38 feet. So not quite as high as the 10V PM2, and it seems to have stabilized there. But 480 feet is no slouch. I've only tested a handful of knives that have been higher than that. I think Maximate has been higher than that. Obviously the 10V was higher than that. And I think just a couple custom heat treats from Brian were higher than that. So it's in rarefied air being at that distance cut. So I do have a couple things to note here from the test. 10V is the only steel other than Maximate to break 500 feet at this point, other than Brian's custom heat treats on 204P. So that is very cool to see that we have another knife in the 500 club. Very impressed with this knife. The 10V, when you take the average of all three tests, the 10V average is 471.77 feet, while K390 is 446 feet even. So there's only a 5.77% difference between the two for average. So I mean that's pretty much negligible at that point. I know Gerald uses a 10% difference. Something within 10% is basically the same to him. That's acceptable. So seeing those results that close together basically tells me I'm probably not going to see much of a difference between the two. And if you use the highest result from both, the over 500 number for 10V and the 480 feet for K390, 10V is 8.3% higher. So still within that 10%. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If these steels were not labeled, I'm not sure I'd be able to tell which one was which. Both perform very, very similarly. I'm pretty happy with both of them, and I'm just very, very glad to own both of these, and they'll definitely see significant use for me. I'm kind of coming around on the PM2 a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of the PM2, but the design is kind of growing on me a little bit. I still don't like it as much as I like the Manix or the Native, but a solid platform for a user. And I'm excited to use these a little bit more because they have that excellent blend of edge retention and easy sharpening. So one more thing to note here at the very end of the video. I was going to say it at the beginning. This is my first knife I've ever purchased from Bento Box Shop. Happy with their shipping speeds. I'm not happy with their shipping costs. And when this knife was brand new, it was $160, I think. And then obviously I paid tax because River's Edge is in the same state that I am. So I paid a little bit extra for that. So I think I paid like $170 for this to get to my house or so. This K390 PM2 was $185, and then they charge an extra $15 for shipping. So not too happy about that, but I am happy with the shipping speed. Everything else seems to be pretty good. I've heard horror stories about Bento Box Shop, so I was kind of reluctant to order from them, but when you have an exclusive that's like this, that's pretty much your only chance to get one. So happy with it. So happy with their customer service so far, and I hope that doesn't change if I order anything from them in the future. With all that being said, guys, I think that's going to do it for me today. This video took a long time to put together, and I was kind of trying to wait for Steve and Gerald and BJ to kind of get their videos out before I put my results out there. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to continue to see more videos just like this one. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.